Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm Tiffany Poole, owner of AMP Attorney Consulting. And for the last 12 years, we've helped consumer bankruptcy firms grow their practice to increase conversion rate, profit, make more money, spend less. And what I've noticed is that many attorneys feel like in order to do that, they have to spend more marketing dollars. They have to spend more hours within the law firm. And I don't think that's true. I don't think it's true at all. And I've partnered with LegalPRO and I'm really thrilled about it because LegalPRO is committed to making sure law firms and attorneys across the U.S. have access to resources that can help them through the challenges that we're all dealing with right now. We're all waiting for the big boom, guys. We keep saying it, we keep waiting, but wanting to figure out what can we do right now in order to spend not a dollar more in marketing, but get more for what we are already getting and convert more. And so we're here today with Daniel Herrin. He is the founder and owner of Herrin Law in Dallas, Texas, here local. And I've actually known Daniel for over 15 years. He's an amazing bankruptcy attorney. And LegalPRO has brought him on today to talk about what he does within his law firm, what he's doing to survive through this time. And quite honestly, just because, again, I've known him for so long, I know that he hasn't struggled at all the last 2 years. And so, Daniel, thank you so much for coming on today. I really want to pick your brain. I really want the audience to hear what you're doing that maybe they're not doing, and find tangible ways that maybe they can implement it into their practice, or do what they're currently doing better so that they can spend zero extra dollars in marketing and have the consistency that you have had during this pandemic, and where challenges are happening with debtors, but we're not feeling it in the bankruptcy industry right now. So Daniel, thanks for joining us, and tell me a little bit about yourself and, more importantly, the audience.
Yeah, of course. So I'm a father of three. I got a 5-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 3-year-old, and that keeps me extremely busy. Tiffany is how I got into bankruptcy. I interviewed with her when I had my first sort of bankruptcy job, and it's become a real passion of mine. And so I have my own firm. I started it in 2015, and the COVID experience, everyone felt it, and then everyone has been wrong with their predictions thus far, right? It was supposed to be first quarter 2021, and no one saw it. And so, like most people, you're spending the marketing money, you have less clients, you have your staff, and everyone faced the challenges. I've learned a lot, but fortunately for my firm, there's a lot of additional revenue channels we've been focusing on with our existing bankruptcy clients. And that's a lot of what I want to share with the audience today, on things that additional revenue you have right now that you're not aware of, and really dig into the details, not just global talks about it, but specifics on what you can do starting tomorrow to start working on these additional revenue channels.
No, absolutely. And just a quick side note. So Daniel's absolutely correct. This is a place, and LegalPRO has created a resource where you can come if you're a bankruptcy attorney, or work within a bankruptcy law firm, and get tangibles like 1, 2, 3, do this, rather than like this conceptual, do better, sell you on this vendor or that marketing or this product, but actual tangibles. So he's going to get into that in just a minute. But quick side note, he's also going to be joining me next Wednesday. That's October 27th at 5 o'clock Central Standard Time, for a power hour. So if you've not been to a power hour before, every month we have a Facebook Live, and the guest does the Facebook Live and, does, good, tangible, but surface level. And then the power hour is always the following week on Wednesday at 5 o'clock Central Standard Time. That's October 27th this month. So next Wednesday. And, it's very casual, but we'll actually come with, even examples, and it's interactive. So you can ask questions direct to Daniel. You can get templates on things he's about to talk about in this Facebook Live. So I say join us next Wednesday, October 27th at 5 o'clock Central Standard Time. Grab a drink, grab a friend, jump online with us, bring the hard-hitting questions, make Daniel's life a little uncomfortable, ask all the things that you didn't get to ask on this Facebook Live. All right, Daniel, so let's get going. So tell me right now, if you were to put like a number one thing that if you were a bankruptcy law firm or a bankruptcy attorney or working within a bankruptcy law firm outside your firm, that they could do right now without spending any extra money or do something better that they're doing now that has helped you stay afloat and helped you stay consistent in bringing in revenue during the last 2 years in the pandemic?
Well, one of the first things I started doing when, March, we all know March 2020, what happened, right? So January, February, and really even March, because COVID didn't really start hitting us till April, I was on record pace. Like this was going to be a record year. And then COVID hit, and like most bankruptcy attorneys, we have our Chapter 7s, and then you have your pipeline and your Chapter 13s. Sometimes it takes a few months. And so I started seeing the trend right away. And one of the things you have to do if you own your own practice, you have to be in your numbers all the time. You got to know how many ICs are you setting, how many. And so I saw the pattern. I knew, okay, we're having a problem. So something I started to do, because I had fewer Chapter 13s, I started fee-apping my Chapter 13 cases. So what I mean by that is instead of doing the flat fee, I would do a complete fee-app on the case. And what happened is my average Chapter 13 case went to about 5,000. So right there, I started capturing, because when I look at my revenue, I look at what am I making per client on average? Because some cases you file, the client makes 2 payments, dismisses, you put in all this effort, if you take out your marketing, maybe you made $50, right? And so if you can start fee-apping some of your cases, and you don't want to do all of them, but the ones where they're paying like unsecured creditors or a little more complicated, right there, you don't have to sign up any more clients. You're going to generate more revenue just from doing that. And I had never fee-apped a case. So I was like everyone else. I did the flat fees, the no-look fees, and I was like, how do I even do this? And so like most things that I don't know how to do, I just started looking at other fee apps that people were doing, and I just tried one. I copied it, and it worked. It was a normal, and when I'm talking the 5,000 I'm earning when you fee app, that 5,000 is earned like by 8 months into the case. So then as you're doing like TRCC reviews, you can file supplemental fee apps and get another 2,000-3,000. So really you've taken a Chapter 13 case that maybe you're getting, every district's kind of different, but you're used to getting 3,500 or 4,000, and you've just almost increased your revenue on those clients by 40%. So now you don't have to add 10 more cases, right? You literally, and you start doing it right away. And so that is the first thing I started to do, because I saw it. I was like, my God, my Chapter 13 filings just got cut in half, which means my trustee check's going to get cut in half. And I had to do it out of necessity, right? Because there weren't leads. I don't care if you were the best marketer in the world. Your phone wasn't ringing as much. And so that helped offset it. That was the first thing I did. And anyone on here, it is so much easier than you think it is. And then you start to realize how much time you really spend in the communications with the clients, right? And all of that. And so that's one area people can start implementing right away, is on the cases where and again, I don't do it for every case, but probably 40% of my cases, I do fee applications now. So that would be the first thing I would have anyone start doing. You don't have to change anything about your marketing. You start doing that right away.
So for example, if I've lost, just because, I'm bad with math, if I lost 10 cases during this time, or 10 Chapter 13s during this time, if I simply started fee apping in past times I wasn't, then I actually didn't lose 10, or I don't need to make up those 10 cases, because right from what I'm already getting, I'm making up the revenue deficit from that.
Exactly. And you're doing nothing different. It's not like when a lot of us are at hearings, we see the Chapter 11 FIAPs or the Chapter 7 trustees if they have an asset case and they file theirs, and like the Chapter 7 trustee did hardly anything and they're getting $5,000, and you're like, what is going on? And people don't realize how much work we do. We all have cases where the client does what you say, but most of the time, for me, we have to touch the file to get the client to do something.
Yeah.
I have to touch it 10 times.
Yeah.
Text message, email, phone,
Yeah.
text message. And so we spend so much work just getting clients to do the basics, right? When you FIAP, you get paid for it. And that's the first thing that I think everyone really should start doing. And it's just like what I did. I picked one case, I did it. There was no extra hearing. And I talked to the trustee, so I was following the FIAP. It's not like I was having to go up in front of the judge, go through my timesheet, and that's part of where you're modeling. Every district is different, every local rule is different, but there are people in your district that are doing it. And I had a really good relationship with the trustee, so I emailed the trustee and said, hey, like, who's doing really good FIAPs that are getting approved without having hearings? He gave me some examples. I pulled the forms and I said, all right, I'm starting on my next Chapter 13, and there we go. And then from now on, that's just what I do.
So you contacted the trustee, and you were like, "Who's doing
I didn't
this
want to deal
well?"
with objections. No one wants to go in front of the judge. Look, if you're a bankruptcy attorney, you really don't want to be in front of the judge if you can avoid it, right? Unless it's a contested matter. So for me, it was like, I want to find out because some people do them, and the judge makes you go to hearing. So I found the ones that weren't going to hearing.
As transactional as possible.
Correct. Because exactly.
Right.
And so that's what I did. I modeled. And so then I just created the forms. I did my first one, which I didn't know what I was doing. And I was like, okay, wow, this worked. So then, and I don't FIAP every case. I'm not going to FIAP someone who has a $300 trustee payment who's below median. I'm not doing that to the client. But some clients, it's a lot more work, where if I'm objecting to claims, if have major IRS issues. So I do that all the time now. And you're gonna probably double your revenue over the 5-year case, because you're filing sometimes multiple FIAPs right after you get past confirmation. There's all sorts of stuff going on. And right now, what we're all going to start seeing, and I'll pivot to this, is mortgage modifications. You're going to have additional fees for filing the motion to approve the modification, additional fees for filing the plan mod to remove the arrears. So there's so much opportunity that starts to add up, but you got to start now. See, most people are like, I'm too busy, I can't figure it out.
Right.
It's sort of like investing, compound interest. If you don't plant the seeds and take action now, the actions you take now increase your revenue 6 months from now. But if you don't start now because you're like, I just can't do it or whatever, then you're delaying your ability to start generating that revenue.
Well, and wouldn't you say right now is the time to be doing it, because cases are down across the entire nation?
Yesterday was the time to start. So if whoever's on this, if you have a potential new client call this afternoon, and it's someone who's above median, and they're, whether it be the IRS, do the FIAP, and you got to tweak your retainer agreement.
Right.
It's easy though. It's very simple. And so when I do my FIAPs, I give a range. Look, you're getting billed hourly. Here's the range that you're looking at, and then hopefully you already have a system where you're tracking your time. The hardest thing for a lot of people is like, well, I don't have a timesheet. You have Excel. You create a template. And so whatever system when the client calls or you're amending schedules, it's very easy. You start tracking it, and then again, your first one's going to take you longer, but that's okay. Eventually you're going to figure it out. And then for me now, it's clockwork. It's very easy.
Well, and again, guys, if you come to the Power Hour, if that's something that you're not already doing, and you're getting this kind of 1, 2, 3 checklist on how to get started from Daniel, and you're like, I get that, but I'm still struggling with that Excel sheet or whatever else. Next Wednesday, the 27th at 5 o'clock Central Standard Time, come join me and Daniel. It's going to be much more casual. But you can actually get, an example of maybe the Excel sheet he uses. Just reach out before next Wednesday And he'll be prepared to have that example on the screen or send it out to people. And, he's the most helpful person, especially in this industry, in bankruptcy attorneys that I've met. So please reach out, from now till then, and he'll come prepared. All right, Daniel. So would you agree that most law firms are sitting on a stockpile of revenue channels? And if they knew where to look and what to do, they wouldn't have to be starving while they're waiting for the boom to happen?
I think 1,000%. And remember, you have to start seeing your clients as, what is your average revenue per client? And this is what I said about getting in the numbers. I know exactly what I make per client on average. And that accounts for the clients who file a case and then it gets dismissed. So I made $50 versus the ones that I get paid in full. I have that number precisely. So I know, so anything you can do to increase that is going to offset fewer cases. And then when things pick up, you've now built this system, right? So when you then get back to your normal case filing, you're going to increase your revenues by 50%, right? Because you've now started to build this process out.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. Absolutely. So one of the things that I brag the most about on Daniel Herrin Law in Dallas, Texas, is his ability to take a basic case and do things that are better for the debtor, but also increase his revenue outside of fee apps. So for instance, Daniel, if you can talk about how adversaries and just untraditional or not mainstream work that can be done within the bankruptcy code and within bankruptcy cases that you do and have done for many, many years.
I've started filing a lot more adversaries, and I'm going to give an example, and this is going to be sort of a blueprint. We'll get into a little more today, but next week I can really break it down.
Right.
Mortgage, any of your clients that have mortgage arrears in bankruptcy, there's a gold mine there, okay? And what you're looking for and what typically happens, someone files, they have mortgage servicer A, they start transferring it, whatever reasons, things are moving around, and you get the transfers. And then what happens, what I'm seeing happen is the new mortgage companies are not properly accounting for the pre-petition arrears, and in particular the escrow. The escrow is key. So what happens and I'm going to give you an example of a case I had that normally I would have just sent a letter. It would have been, all right, let me figure this out. But I didn't, and I've stopped doing that. Okay, I file a lot of adversaries. And so what brought me to the attention was we got the notice of mortgage payment change, which is now mandated in every district, right? So anytime the payment changes, the mortgage company has to file something with the court. And this case I came across, and the escrow account went up like double. And I was like, well, what would account for that, right? Post-petition, we're in the 13. So I started looking at it, and the first thing I did was did a qualified written request under RESPA. That's where they have to kind of disclose information. All right. They didn't respond to the qualified written request. Cause of action 1 immediately. Okay. Meaning they're mandated to respond within a period of time. And if they don't, that's an automatic violation. So I did that. Then they responded late, and it was a generic response. They explained nothing. Our concern was, I think you've captured the escrow shortage in the claim, but now the new servicer, when they booked in the loan, was acting like the escrow shortage was not in the proof of claim. So and this was my theory, based on the numbers and the rough math. Well, the mortgage company dragged their feet, so I sued them. So I filed an adversary for a stay violation, for violation of the confirmation order, violation of RESPA, and these complaints I have built out. So their first offer to me was $300, the attorney. And they hired one of these, when you hire them, they hire these big law firms. So I said no. So we started doing discovery, and we started doing this. And guys, a lot of this, I don't have, I never really had like a mentor lawyer that I could learn from. I've always had to figure stuff out. And it's examples. It's finding something similar. So I do the discovery. Long story short, my theory was right. We get to a week before trial, and by now, guys, my attorney's fees are 60 grand. Now the client clearly isn't paying me that, because
Right.
if I win on the statute, the creditor has to pay. So we literally have trial in a week. We get a settlement offer, confidential. So the client, we had a cash portion that was 6 figures, and the client got a modification that dropped their interest rate in half. So I got all my attorney's fees paid, which was about 60 grand. On one case that you probably have right now, think about that. You guys probably have something like this where you're seeing it, and maybe you're just making some calls and you're not working it, but that shows you. I guarantee you, every single attorney on this call has a case similar to that, and the mortgage companies drag their feet. They don't respond, which means you file the suit, and then they don't even know what's going on half the time. They don't understand the numbers. There's so much confusion, and it works. But if you don't do that, if you're just calling them and you try to work it out, maybe they fix it, maybe they don't, and then you just that was a 60, for me, and the client got just an amazing result, because we had a 6-figure cash settlement plus the modification. Let me give you another example, a case I literally just settled. Client's car was wrongfully repoed. Normally, you spend all this energy getting the car back, and then you don't get paid for it. Right? So we spent the energy, we got the car back. It was a major inconvenience, but instead of just saying, okay, I filed an adversary proceeding.
Right.
We just settled that case and got about a $52,000 cash settlement, and the client got a free car. Think about that for a second. Everyone's done this. And then my attorney's fees on that case were about $28,000. So guys, when I say average case per client, imagine if you're able to do this, what it can do. And these aren't like, half the time I think something's wrong, like with the mortgage case. I wasn't for sure, but something was off with the numbers. They didn't explain it. We get into litigation. They drag their feet. Your attorney's fees are going up and up and up and up. And by the time they settle, the statutes for violation of the automatic stay and all these other things, they have to pay the attorney's fees. So, So that's what I'm telling you guys right now. Those are 2 cases. And the other one I just settled. And I already have 3 or 4 more adversaries I just filed in the last 3 months that are going to be the same thing, right? I now know the trends. I know exactly what to look for, the indicators. I have systems in place to monitor those, and there it is. So everyone here is going to be able to, there are cases like that you have right now, and you just have to learn how to work them more aggressively. And you ultimately get your client the most amazing result ever. I mean, I got my client a free car plus enough money where they're going to be able to pay off their entire case, right? So think about how that client feels. And then that client writes a review for you. And that review is the most amazing review you've ever had. So when people are looking at your reviews, these aren't, a lot of people buy fake reviews. People know that. They know reviews that aren't authentic. But when you get a client who does that, that one review will just convince them they're going to sign up with you. They don't care if you charge more than anyone else, because you've sold them right then and there.
Because you're doing something that I know just firsthand that many bankruptcy attorneys watching now have not done. But I think the point is you can do it, and it always round robins to it's the best for the debtor as well. So I would even say, forget about that 88,000 extra revenue that Daniel made on 2 cases. Think about almost our obligation to do that for the debtor, because that is the best for the debtor. So, I mean, it helps everyone outside the creditor, but we don't really.
Yeah, and this isn't cheesy. For everyone here, our clients are the little guy. Okay? Small businesses, families struggling, individuals who just, when they come to us in our office, they face nothing but fear, rejection, failure, right? And no one advocates for them, because if you don't make a lot of money, you can't hire the big attorney, and so they never get representation, because attorneys they're going to say, well, I'm not going to spend my time on this. I'm not getting paid. No, you will get paid, and you're going to get a result for your client that's amazing. right? And these, not all cases are big, but I had one where the client had an automatic ACH. We file, we serve the creditor. The creditor takes $200 out of the client's account, clearly had notice, sent them a letter. They said, get out of here, whatever. So I sued them. Okay. Client got the money back and a little bit of money, and I got an extra $5,000 on a case that took me 2 months, right? It settled very quickly.
And that's something that's happening a lot.
Well, someone wouldn't file an adversary. You're going to spend time. You're going to call the creditor. You're going to take a month. Your client gets the money back, but your client suffered because they probably needed that $200-300. And if you don't start doing this, you're wasting, again, revenue. So I have a lot of small ones. So I file adversaries now all the time. And they always settle. I'm always getting paid. Even if the case isn't fantastic, the creditor, they'd rather just settle right away, and then the client gets more than they would have, and it's a win-win.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Daniel, can I get you to commit for the Power Hour next Wednesday to kind of bring like a 1, 2, 3 filter system on someone that's not doing this, which I think is probably 98% of everyone watching, on how they can start being aware of, looking for those cases, or just something tangible in their face on, okay, when you get a case that, you normally would do this, why not do this?
Yeah. And I'll do this. I think for everyone listening, the biggest thing that's going to hold them back is the uncertainty. I don't know how to start. How do I, the filings, the procedural aspect. And so if there's enough interest, so if you guys either reach out, to Tiffany, if there's enough interest where people are like, look, I want to learn, I want to do this. I'm not in the business of teaching courses. I'm a lawyer, and but if there's enough interest to get you started, part of what everyone needs is the hands-on. Here's the complaint. Here's the template. Here's the next step. Not just a checklist. I'm talking everything. And if there's enough interest, I'd be willing to maybe put a course together that's, you're literally, I'd envision it as you coming with me, Daniel, here I think this could be a case, very hands-on with helping you throughout the whole process, not just the filing, but what do I do after that? Sir, so absolutely. And I'll definitely be providing some checklists on spotting potential adversaries in your case.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I really appreciate it. I mean, guys, we're all in the same boat together. I mean, we all have to weather this storm together. And so I'm grateful to LegalPRO, to being committed to bringing on guests like Daniel Herrin, who is, taking his time at zero cost to us, to kind of give you things that he knows works because he's doing it himself. And again, just those 2 cases. I mean, I know if I'm you listening and I'm a bankruptcy attorney right now and I'm struggling, which 98% are, just because of what we're dealing with. I'm thinking that's, more than $100,000 that I'm bleeding right now because of things I can't control, which is my lead volume dropped by 30%, or the volume that I am getting, people aren't acting because there's things in place that are protecting them. And so they have no urgency. Like, those are things you can control. But everything that Daniel is bringing to the table today and spending his time to educate us on, and, Wednesday will even help us more, are things that you can do as soon as you stop watching this video, that you can control and cost you zero extra. It's just about doing more, doing better, and knowing what that more and that better is. So again, thank you so much, Daniel. And if you're just joining us, just to kind of recap, I'm Tiffany Poole from AMP Attorney Consulting. We've been around for about 12 years helping law firms, specifically bankruptcy law firms, increase conversion, profitability, efficiencies, and just growing them and meeting goals, whatever that goal is for the firm. And LegalPRO has committed to having a Facebook Live every month and a Power Hour every month, and bringing people like Daniel Herrin from Herrin Law here in Dallas, Texas, local, to give you resources on things that you can do today, right now, that won't cost you anything more. It'll just take time of learning and reaching out to be better. So Daniel, while you were talking, I got a flurry of questions from the audience. And audience, as we're going through the questions and Daniel answers them, you can shoot them over. My admin is shooting them over in my direct chat here. So get them in, and let's blast Daniel with some hard questions. So audience question, Daniel, was, do you recommend reducing marketing spend for the time being?
So everything's about ROI, return on investment. You have to be in your numbers. You have to know what's going on, and you have to know what marketing source is converting. So most people, every small firm, and I've been burned, you get emails every week about, hey, I'll get you on Google and you'll pay money. And then it's like, well, how do you can't even tell if it's working. So the first thing is you have to, whatever you're doing, you have to make sure, can I get a clear ROI on it? Right. And so for me, I spend a lot on Google AdWords, right? They work. They're very powerful. You got to really be dialed into it though. So I don't recommend people doing it themselves because there's experts out there who are very, very good at it. But sort of it's like there are certain times when people just aren't really searching, like during certain holidays. And right now, if your lead quality, if your leads are down and you're paying the same amount on your marketing, that makes 0 sense, right? So again, in your numbers. So for me, it's like a weekly reporting. How many ICs did I set this week? How many did I retain? How much did I spend? And so then I'll email my Google Ads person and say, hey, we need to cut this down. We're not getting any conversions. We're paying a ton. And so it's sort of like almost a weekly, it's a weekly adjustment. During COVID, for sure, I was like, why am I still paying what I was paying when I was getting X leads when I'm getting these in half? Like, this makes 0 sense, right?
Yeah.
But again, it's because you have to be dialed in. You have to see the trend, and then you adjust. And then same thing for Google Ads in particular. There are times of the year when people just aren't searching, holiday, Christmas, Thanksgiving, and you're still running your ads and you're still paying, but they're not calling and your office isn't even open. You know what I mean?
That was actually the next audience question is, specifically holidays. Do you turn off your ad spend? Yeah. Do you shut down your lead sources during those times that your office is closed, and why?
Yeah, and you have to be dialed in. Yes. Because I'm still paying. A lot of our clients, guys, they are urgent, and this is why it's so important for your marketing. They aren't going to spend. Some do. Some call 5 attorneys. Most call the first attorney. Their bank was just garnished by the IRS. So the first thing they see, they call. All right. And so for a lot of you, you have to be available. So if you don't have a designated person who's always answering that phone, you've just wasted money, because leads, Google AdWords, are very expensive. Anywhere from $100 to $300, depending on the time. I mean, you've already paid however much. So if there's times when I know we're not going to be there or we're closed, then I don't want any ads running during that time.
Well, and that's a great tip, because it takes one email to, you copy and paste all your vendors and you say, hey, my office is closed from X to X. And that could save you thousands of dollars in expense. And it's not losing you any revenue, because like you said, if you're not there, you're not capitalizing, converting that lead. So it sounds so simple, but it's one email that a lot of us in bankruptcy world aren't sending. And so that ad spend is just running.
Yeah. And it's, you've got to be able to track your ROI. So if you have the ad, you have to know that this client came from the ad. So if you don't have systems in place to distinguish, you'll never have the clarity or the precision to adjust, because I'll adjust literally weekly. I'll email and say, hey, we're getting, and then we'll experiment with new ads, and I'll know immediately on that new ad, because we create call tracking numbers. So then I know, oh, we got 5 calls on this ad. This is really working. Let's increase it. And you always can know, guys. So a lot of people, especially with Google Ads, don't try to do it yourself. There's a science to it. There's an expertise to it. I'm telling you, I tried. I'm a tech guy. My undergrad was in management information systems. Through law school, I did IT consulting. That's how I paid my living expenses.
That's how he got hired.
Yeah, that's how. Yeah. But my point is, find someone trusted. Tiffany is a marketing she is so process oriented. She is on top of this stuff. She knows what works and doesn't, but you got to find the right company to partner with. And the beauty is you can start small. So you can say, okay, I'm going to do a $1,500 ad spend on these ads, and you're going to know right away, how many leads did I get? And everyone here knows you get the NOLO, you get all the pay for lead services. You have to track that as well. Do they actually work? Are they quality leads? And the goal is to spend just enough to test if there's an ROI. You don't have to spend $10,000. You can spend $1,000. And if there's an ROI, then you bump it up and then you scale, right? But that's what I'm always doing. And everyone can relate. Our clients are typically stuck. I use the word stuck because that's what they are. They're in an overwhelmed state. They don't know what to do. And when you're in that state, your brain defaults to doing what you always do.
Right.
And the same applies to law firms and attorneys. And you're stuck in what you've always been doing. You don't know what to do. So you just keep doing what you're doing. And you live in someday land. You have to start being agile. Not everything that I do makes money. Half my marketing fails completely. But I test it, and I do a minimal investment to test it. And then if it works, I put more money. If it doesn't, I move on. And so that's the key, is spending a little bit to see if it works, and then you add more. So if you do fail, you haven't wasted. I remember when I first started my firm, I hired a natural SEO company, paid him $2,500 a month for 12 months, and I literally had no idea to track the ROI. It didn't do anything. I just kept paying it. So I obviously stopped that. And that's when I learned, after being burned by like 5 SEO companies, to start with, I'm going to give X amount, show me what you can do, and then I will pay you a lot more. And that's what everyone needs to be doing with anyone you hire, anything you do. See if there's an ROI on a little bit, and then you can scale up.
Put it on your calendar. Have the process in place. Make sure you're looking at it once a week. Doesn't mean you have to make a decision weekly, because you allow some time to go. But if you're looking at it once a week, once you come to a month and plus 2 months, plus 3, you're going to know to do exactly what Daniel's saying. You're going to know how to manipulate the budget, whether you're cutting it completely, adding to it, decreasing it, moving it around, etc. And you stay within the same marketing budget you had. You're just doing better with those dollars because you're looking at that.
And one more tip real quick, Tiffany. When you're doing these ads, where are you driving them to? If they're going to your main website, that's a huge mistake. Every ad should have a tailored landing page, period. Every single one, okay? Because if they're going to your website, you may not have the right call to action. So if I'm targeting car repossession ads or people who are doing that, when they go to my landing page, it's so centered on what they're targeting. And so it's a one-page thing, and it has my number, call to action. So if you're driving your ads to your main website, it's the first thing you need to also change to help ROI, is creating specific landing pages that are associated with those ads.
That's such a great point. So insightful, because if I'm searching, how do I keep my car from being repoed, or whatever my search is as a consumer, if I then am, I choose one and I'm directed to a page that only talks about that, then obviously I'm not clicking off and going to the next guy or even researching anymore. I'm click to call, right? All day long. But I know even a lot of my clients, sadly, and lots of bankruptcy attorneys in the nation, they have everything go to the website. I mean, I think that's traditionally what people tell you you're supposed to do, is drive to the website, drive to the website, drive to the website. But you're so right. So, I mean, guys, tangible thing. I hope you wrote it down for sure. If everything's just driving to your websites, get those landing pages to match that search term or that keyword, so that what they search, the direct same message and call to action to that is right in their face. I mean, it makes it easy for them, right?
Absolutely.
So I got another question for you. It's the last question I've got for you, Daniel. How often do you communicate with existing clients, like in terms of general outreach to keep conversation going, or casework, etc.?
A lot. So we have, and this is, I'm going to give credit to Tiffany. Clients, a lot of times they don't answer the phone, and in their emails, they just don't respond. So texting is the most powerful way to get, it's call to action. You need your client to do something. So we use Ring Central, but all the time, all the time, always talking to clients, following up. being proactive. If we have a deadline in 30 days, I can't tell the client it's a 30-day deadline. So we're, it's working it proactively. And again, I know how often it takes to get documents. And what I've built in my system is automated emails. So I can type a filled in into the client's file into my system that will send them an email every 2 days. And we'll also set a task for my legal assistant to confirm if we got it. And the client will keep getting bombarded with an email until we get the documents, and then we clear the box, it goes away, and then we're texting. So we are checking files all the time.
No, absolutely. And
fee apps, you're getting paid for every touch, right? So
yeah, that's what I was about to say. And so that may be overwhelming because you think, okay, well, I'm going to have to spend more hours doing that in order to be successful. But I don't think that's true. I mean, a couple of things. Ring Central absolutely is a great tool. LegalPRO has Jubilee, which has automated emails. Once you put the name in, it follows the life of the case and automatically emails them every 2 days. And they have SMS, so it'll text them. And so you can do the same touches and work like Daniel does, but just like Daniel, use automation to do that. And nowadays, guys, people aren't answering calls. They're not answering emails, but a text they will. If you send enough emails and enough texts, they will, and it moves it through. And in this case, especially if you're going to start taking on some things that have made Daniel so successful, especially during the last 2 years where we've been kind of every month starving more, you're going to have to take that on in order to do adversary type stuff and FDCPA type stuff and fee apps. You're going to have to take on that technology and things that are in the cloud and in this virtual living space in order to take on the things that Daniel's doing. But again, he came to it naturally, excuse me, because he's naturally an IT guy, and he spent actual hours self-developing and also formal education on it. And that doesn't have to be you. Come to the Power Hour next Wednesday on the 27th at 5 o'clock Central Standard Time. Meet with Daniel. You don't have to be Daniel. You don't have to have his natural skill set in those ways or his background or experience. Learn from him. That's what this is all about. That's what LegalPRO is committed to doing, is giving you people like Daniel. They exist out there that are doing this every single day and not struggling. We don't have to struggle, but we do have to reach out, and we do have to put in the time to come to Power Hours, to come to masterminds, to reach out to people like Daniel, to resources to do better and get better. So again, thank you so much, Daniel. I can't wait for next Wednesday. Bring a friend. If you haven't registered, reach out to us, get registered. Before next Wednesday, if there's anything specific you want myself or LegalPRO or Daniel himself to bring actual, like he said, templates of how he's done some of these things, please reach out before next Wednesday. We'll come prepared, and we'll come with a drink and a friend, and it's very interactive. So don't be shy in asking questions, even if you didn't get a chance before Wednesday to ask live during the Power Hour. I want to make sure, and I know Daniel, professionally and personally, I know he also wants to know that in that hour next Wednesday and the hour we've spent today, you leave with something you can execute. Because as he'll say, and as many will say, ideas are great. Having brilliant ideas are even better. But if we're not executing, if we're not taking one step at a time, the next step, and adding it to what we're doing today and tomorrow and so on, nothing gets done and nothing changes. So I appreciate you so much, Daniel. I'm excited for Wednesday. And is there anything that audience didn't ask that you think should have been asked?
I think I'll leave people with two things. One, your Google Maps is probably becoming one of the more important things. So you need to make sure your Google Map listing, that's natural SEO, right? So that's its own animal. You need to be doing that and getting really good quality reviews. And then for marketing. And then something that I think every attorney should do. There's so much other stuff that I'm doing related to this, but the IRS collection activities have increased substantially this year. Okay. I don't know if that's the administration, the backlog, but they are doing things that I have not seen them do in a while. And something I started doing a few years ago were offering compromises. If you can do a bankruptcy petition, and offering compromise is about 10 times easier. Okay. And because of the backlog, the IRS is approving more than ever. So when you do a Chapter 7 for a client or a Chapter 13 post-discharge, and they filed the returns late or whatever reason they weren't discharged, that's another revenue stream. You immediately do an offer and compromise. And I've literally had my last 6 done, and my clients were paying anywhere from like 5 cents on the dollar to 20 cents on the dollar. All right. And it's powerful and it's easy. It is literally 10 times easier than filing a bankruptcy, and you make more money on an offer and compromise. So if you're not doing that, that's another thing. Again, no one taught me how to do it, right? I took a case, I did it. And the same thing, I want to challenge every one of you, do something you have not done before, because that's how you get confidence. And then that's how you'll start doing it. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And shout out to last month's Facebook Live Empower Hour, Todd from Honest Tax. If you don't want to learn it because you're going to spend the time learning how to do FIAPs and the adversaries and FTCPA and the other things that Daniel's bringing to the table on Wednesday, if you didn't watch it, go on the Facebook page, watch the video from last month, look at me and Todd talking about exactly this, refer to him. He gives you a big amount of money just to send him the case and do it for you and then send it back. And then if you want to learn it, ask Daniel on Wednesday how you get in his head to learn how to do that. Because again, it's about adding revenue without spending an extra dollar in marketing. So I hope you join us Wednesday. And again, Daniel, thank you so much for your time. Audience, thank you for joining us, listening to us. I hope it was valuable, and we'll see you next time.